The focus of this video is to understand what to do when I am given parallel lines. So again, this has to be when I'm given parallel lines. So in this diagram, these arrows here I just drew in would indicate that my lines A and B are parallel. So A is parallel to B. We need to understand and remember our angle pairs and their relationships in order to decide what equations to set up. So if my lines are parallel and they're cut by a transversal, then my corresponding angles are congruent. When they're congruent, I can set them equal. Corresponding angles would be angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. Angle 2 is congruent to angle 8. And angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. We can say the same thing about alternate interior angles. Those are also congruent. Alternate interior in this case would be angle 3 congruent to angle 5 and angle 4 congruent to angle 8. Alternate exterior angles are also congruent. In this diagram, that's angle 1 congruent to angle 7 and angle 2 congruent to angle 6. So being able to identify corresponding alternate interior, alternate exterior is really important. And then understanding that if my lines are parallel, then I can conclude that those angle pairs are congruent. On the other side, if they're parallel, same side interior are not congruent. Those are supplementary. The equation or the representation is that those angles add to 180. So angles 3 and 8 are same side interior. That means angle 3 plus angle 8 equals 180 degrees. And angle 4 plus angle 5 equals 180 degrees. We can make the same conclusion about same side exterior angles. Angle 1 plus angle 6 equals 180 degrees. Angle 2 plus angle 7 equals 180 degrees. If you have a hard time remembering your angle pair relationships, remember we have our tic-tac-toe method, or our method with our dots and our check marks. If I create this pattern and then recall vertical angles, this angle is a dot, the vertical angle is also a dot. Check mark, vertical angles are check marks. Now, anything with the same symbol is equal. Any angle that's a dot is equal to any other angle with a dot. Any angle that's a check mark is equal to any other angle that's a check mark. But if I combine a dot with a check mark, those two angles add to 180 degrees. Remember though, this only works if I'm given parallel lines. So I have to have parallel lines in order to make this determination. So, two examples. I can look at this and recognize that these angles are corresponding angles. My lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. That means I set these angles equal to each other. That's the chain rule of logic. So 6x plus 5 equals 4x plus 17. Okay. The other opportunity here is if I do dot check mark, that's a dot, this is a dot, that's a check, dot, dot, check, check. These are both dots. That means they're equal. Same sign, they're equal. I'm going to erase that. Solve for x. Subtract 4x from both sides. Subtract 5 from both sides. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 6. Okay. But now I need to find the measure of angle 1. Angle 1 is this angle down here. It is a vertical angle with this angle here. Therefore, it's congruent. So if I can find this angle measure, I know this angle measure. I know that the measure of angle 1 is equal to 6x plus 5 because those are vertical angles. Substitute in. The measure of angle 1 is 6 times 6 plus 5. Therefore, the measure of angle 1 is 36 plus 5, 41 degrees. In number 2, I have a different relationship between the two angles that have my variable. My lines are parallel. These two angles are on the same side of my transversal, but both in the exterior. Parallel lines, same side exterior angles are supplementary. That's when I add my angles and set them equal to 180 degrees. That gives me 5x plus 21 plus 3x plus 17 equals 180. Solve for x. 8x plus 38 equals 180 degrees. Subtract 38 from both sides. 8x equals 142. Divide both sides by 8, and x equals 17.75. X can be a decimal. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Then I need to find angle 1. Two ways to do that here. I do see that these two angles are a linear pair, so if I substitute into here, 180 minus this angle measure is angle 1. But I might also recognize that angle 1 and this angle are alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. So if I substitute into x here, 3 times 17.75 plus 17, that's the same as the measure of angle 1. When I calculate this, I get this angle to be 70.25 degrees. That's the measure of this particular angle. That's the measure of this particular angle. Measure of angle 1 is 70.25 degrees. I would have got the same thing if I had plugged in for x here and then taken my solution for this angle measure and subtract it from 180, since these are a linear pair.